Today we are going to be talking about the books I read in August and September, and I'm going to tell you what I will be reading in October for the spooky season, because that's important. I decided to combine the month August with September because I didn't read that much in August because I didn't feel like it. So yeah, I just combined the two. Alright, so the first book that I read was The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. Basically, it's about some people from Earth who go to Mars, and some things happen. It takes place over like a series of a couple years. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoy Bradbury's style of writing, but for some reason I couldn't really get too absorbed into this, I guess. I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel compelled to read it, if that makes sense. Like, it was just kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad I read it. It was good, but I wasn't super into it the entire time I was reading it. I sort of have mixed feelings about the ending, but it wasn't a bad ending. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. There's a couple of nuggets of wisdom in this book that I think people today could learn from. It's a short one, but it's a classic, and it was good. I would recommend. The next book I read was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So I wanted to read this for the longest amount of time, and then I read it, and I think I hated it. When I first started reading it, I actually liked it a lot. But as I kept going, I was just like, what is even going on right now? This book is about a shepherd who spends his time traveling the world and ends up going on this personal quest for a treasure because that's his quote-unquote personal legend that they call it in the book, which is basically like the meaning of life or whatever. There are some quotes that I liked from the book, so I guess it wasn't all a waste of time, but like, it felt like a story that has been told before hundreds of times, and the hype surrounding it, I don't get it. I didn't really gain much from reading it. I felt like it was gonna be so inspirational and life-changing, and it just felt very basic. It's written in sort of a folktale or mythical sort of way, like in third person. I don't really know how to explain that, so I hope that makes sense. But that I didn't really mind. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. Wasn't feeling it at all. The next book I read was Circe by Madeline Miller. This book is based on the mythology of the goddess Circe, where she's basically banished to an island by her father Helios, who is the god of the sun or something. You don't really have to know a lot about mythology to read this book. Like, I knew sort of a decent amount because I learned about it in school, but like, I wouldn't say you need to know any mythology to read this because it's mostly explained, at least the important parts. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I don't know what was going on with me, but I couldn't get into this book. Just like the last two. I don't know if it was just me. The writing style was beautiful. I did enjoy that. And overall, I did enjoy the story. I don't know, I had to force myself to read it, I guess. I felt like I could connect to Circe in that I was emotionally involved, but I wasn't encapsulated. Also, circling back to like the mythology knowledge, if you don't know that much, I don't know if this is in every edition, but I had the Kindle edition, and in the back of the book they had like a glossary, I guess, explaining each of the gods and goddesses and whatever, in case you get confused. The next book I read was The Starless Sea by Aaron Morgenstern. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It's about this kid who basically finds this book that doesn't have an author, and him finding this book leads him into this underground library and all of these things that happen. It's very, very beautiful. It was so vivid and just gorgeous. Like, picturing the world in my head was so fun. It's a little confusing. There's some parts of the plot that just, like, didn't really make sense, or they felt sort of irrelevant, or at least they weren't tied together at the end. I felt like this should have been a longer book, even though it was, I think, like 400 to 500 pages. There was just so much that happened. I feel like it could have been explained a little bit more. It seemed like the author detailed a bunch of non-important aspects of the plot instead of the ones that were more important, which was frustrating, but not too bothersome, really. Like, I still really enjoyed this book, and I thought about it, like, after I read it for a while, so I think that's a good sign that the book was pretty good if you keep thinking about it after you read it. So the next book I read was Find Layla by Meg Ellison. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It was short. I bought it on an impulse. I think I got it like at a discount or something. Yeah, I don't know. It was good. I felt like it could have been... I just wasn't really crazy about the writer's writing style, I guess. Yeah, that's probably the only reason why I gave it 3 out of 5. Because I did like the plot, it was interesting. Basically, it's about this girl who grew up in a really horrible home, and it was, like, filthy, disgusting. Like, she had a project for school, and she ended up filming parts in her home, and the video went viral, and that's basically what the book is about. Yeah, it was alright. Not great. A shrug. It gets a shrug out of 5. The 6th book that I read was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning. I guess I can't really say I read it because I didn't finish it. This book has been so hyped up, and it actually was made into a series on Hulu, which I might watch, even though I didn't finish the book. I honestly can't even really tell you what it's about because I read about 50% and I still don't even know. Like, it didn't even go anywhere. Like, I hated the characters, which is the main reason why I didn't finish it. Like, it's super character driven, and while that can be nice in books, it didn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me. I have a feeling that it gets a lot more interesting towards the end, but I just could not. I have too many books that I want to read, and it's getting to be spooky season, and I want to read my spooky books, so I didn't want to waste my time reading something I wasn't enjoying. I'm not gonna give it a rating because I didn't finish it. Yeah, it was just so boring to me. It's my opinion. The last book I read was one that I actually enjoyed and gave 5 out of 5 stars, the only 5 out of 5 of these past 2 months. And that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I really liked this book. I've been seeing this book around a lot recently, and I never really knew what it was about, but I knew that it was popular, and I think that's why I got it, just like on a whim, how I do. And it was not about anything that I actually was thinking it was going to be about. Like, I don't even know what I thought, but basically it's a love story, but it doesn't really feel like a love story. Because it's not super lovey-dovey and romantic. It's very realistic. It's kind of a coming-of-age story, I guess, because it follows these 2 young adults from, like, high school into, like, their college years. They just sort of have, like, an on-again, off-again relationship, kind of. I didn't think I was gonna like it. I finished it in less than 2 days. The main reason why I enjoyed it so much is because it was very realistic, and it's something that I could see actually happening in real life instead of like one of those stupid romance stories that are like, oh, we touched hands at a coffee shop and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, it made sense. I connected with the characters a lot, and it just felt very relatable, especially because I'm in college now, and it basically... the book ends with all the main characters, like, in college, or, like, end of college, I think. So, that's it. That was all the books I read the past 2 months, and now I will talk about the spooky books I'll be reading in October. Okay, anyway, so the first book that I'm reading is The Shadows by Alex North. I actually just started this recently and reading it with my friend Megan. Hi, Megan. I read Alex North's first book, which was called The Whisper Man, and I did enjoy it. It was a little flawed. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It might have been 3 out of 5. I don't remember. But, I did enjoy it. It was good, and this is his most recent release, and I should probably look up the plot because I don't really know much what it's about because I just started reading it, so... It says that it follows one of the main characters in, The Whisper Man, which I didn't even realize because, well, I did realize it, but I didn't know that that was on purpose, I guess. I'm an idiot. Because I was like reading I read like the first 5 chapters, and this other character sounded so familiar, and I was like, wow, this guy just didn't even think to make a new character, he just stole the old one. Here it was done on purpose. What is wrong with me? Anyway, basically it's about a murder that these 2 teenagers did, supposedly, and yeah, a lot of spooky shit's supposed to happen. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I'm so bad at telling summaries. I'm just gonna move on to the next book. The next book I'm gonna read is this like 3-story collection by Washington Irving. It's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Rip Van Winkle, and the Spectra Bridegroom, which I've actually never heard of the Spectra Bridegroom, but I mainly wanted to read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and I found this little book, so I thought I would just get it, and I can read all of them at once. The only thing is this is like a collection that's been like adapted from his stories, so they're not like word for word or anything, but it says that it keeps Irving's? Washington Irving's. Irving. It says that it kept his style, so yeah, I don't know, we'll see. It has a bunch of illustrations and stuff in it, which is so cool. Alright, so the last one I have planned to read is The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories by Tim Burton. I didn't know Tim Burton like actually wrote like a book of stories, but yeah, there's like illustrations in there too. Really excited about this one. I think it's gonna be really fun. Other than that, I don't think I'm reading anything else, mostly because October is gonna be kind of a busy month for me, so I'm not sure if I'll have time. I did want to read Wuthering Heights by Charlotte Bront, because I read that every fall because I love that book, but I don't think I'm going to this year because I just have too many new books that I would rather read, you know? That's it. I hope you guys are staying healthy and sane and safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.